Dear learners and listeners, Namaskar. I am Anita Devraj, and today I am going to take you on a very interesting journey to the evolution of human beings on earth. Now, in this particular video, I shall start with the evolution of human beings on earth. Do you know that the first human-like beings are believed to have emerged about 2 million years ago? These people resembled apes. Biologists call them Homo sapiens, or in Latin, wise human beings. Now, these people did not know how to cultivate land and grow food, nor did they know how to build a house for shelter. These people lived in caves or on tree tops. Do you know that human beings had started living on earth much earlier than they learned to write? The invention of writing was an important landmark, as written records became the main source of our knowledge of the past. Do you know what is not recorded in writing is called prehistory? You will be surprised to know that the period of prehistory is much longer than the recorded time, which we term as history. So, to reconstruct the life of prehistoric humans, historians and anthropologists study tools, weapons, ornaments, cave dwellings and cave paintings made by our ancestors. History refers to that period of human evolution for which written records are available. Such writings are found on rocks, pillars, copper, plates and more recently paper. Now, let us start with the nomadic age, that is the Stone Age. The primitive human beings were nomads, that is they traveled from one place to another in search of food. They moved in groups so that they could ensure safety from wild animals, for social security and for companionship. These people started making tools with stones. So, we call that period in human evolution as the Stone Age. In each stage, human beings used stones as implements, which were better than the earlier ones. This helped them to progress to a better and safer life. It had the following main stages of development. Now, beginning with the Old Stone Age, also known as the Paleolithic Age. During this Old Stone Age, human beings lived in the foothills of the mountains, preferably near a river. Now, why near a river? Rivers provided them with drinking water as well as food in the form of animals that came there to quench their thirst. They could find caves for shelter on the foothills. So, their basic needs of food, water and shelter were satisfied easily at such spots. Do you know that early humans had to push out wild animals, especially the giant bears, from the caves in order to make a home for themselves? Just imagine how difficult and dangerous life of these primitive people was and how they lived. To cover and protect their bodies from heat and cold, these primitive humans wore bark from the trees and the skin of animals, which they dried under the sun. You must appreciate the role of environment, which played an important role in sustaining the human beings. Even today, there are some places in India like the Andaman and Nicobar Island where certain tribals live like the early human beings even today. Early humans lived in caves and made paintings depicting hunting scenes on the walls of these caves. Paintings of animal chase, especially big animals like bison and reindeer, can still be seen in the Bhimbetka caves in Madhya Pradesh. It is quite possible that this practice of drawing on the walls was some kind of a ritual that ensured that they would be successful in their hunting expeditions. It is also possible that it was a creative expression to make their surroundings beautiful by making an artistic expression of their hunts. Do you know that Bhimbetka was an archaeological World Heritage Site located in Raisin district in Madhya Pradesh? These Bhimbetka shelters exhibit the earliest traces of human life in India, which is of prehistoric times. Some of the Stone Age rock paintings found among the Bhimbetka rock shelters are approximately 30,000 years old. Now, the Paleolithic humans also developed certain practices which we think must be their religious beliefs. They worshipped their ancestors after their death and buried them with tools and eatables for a comfortable journey to the next world. They were afraid of natural phenomena like lightning and thunder. They could not understand facts like the rising and setting of the sun, but they knew that it was light when the sun rose in the east. It gave heat during the daytime, whereas the moon gave peace and coolness at night. To them, it was something supernatural because they could not understand the cause. So, they worshipped the sun, the moon, thunder, and lightning. Moreover, they were wise enough not to destroy nature and its balance. They took from nature only as much as they needed and preferred to live in harmony with it. Don't you think that the world would be a nicer place to be in if people followed what the early humans did? The Old Stone Age was followed by the Middle Stone Age or the Mesolithic Age. The Mesolithic Age was regarded as the transitional age between the Paleolithic Age and the Neolithic Age. Now, beginning with the Middle Stone Age, let us see how the humans during the Mesolithic Age discovered the use of fire. It is quite possible that when two pieces of flint stone were stuck together, they produced a spark. Now, this spark may have fallen on some dry leaves and caused a fire. This could have frightened or surprised the early humans. The intelligent humans learned to use this discovery to their advantage. Let us see what they did. They found that fire frightened the animals and so could provide them safety if kept burning near the caves. Now, this fire also provided light during the night. Even the food became softer and tastier when cooked on fire. It also warmed up the cold caves by providing heat. Even today, people warm themselves sitting near a fire on a cold winter night. This must have been really a great event in the life of early humans. Can you imagine how the progress of early humans from living on the treetops to the discovery of fire took place? It could not have happened overnight. Obviously, it took several thousand years. No wonder that fire became an object of wonder as well as worship. Now, let us do an activity. Imagine that you are visiting a place where there is no electricity. It is a cold winter night and you are scared. Recall what the early humans must have done to keep themselves warm. Now, you can try and write at least 3 different ways in which you could keep yourself warm. Just like the fire, the use of tools was another important discovery for the early humans. The tools found in this period were called microliths. They were sharper and more effective. Bones of animals were also used to make tools and weapons like borers, scrapers, arrows, hooks, arrowheads, and hammers. They made hammers, choppers, and hand axes with which they could cut down small trees. They used it to kill animals for food or build small huts for themselves. They clipped smaller stones to make them as sharp as a knife. By attaching them to bows and spears, they made these tools very effective. Now they were able to hunt animals from a safer distance. Some of these stone implements have been found in Punjab, Kashmir Valley, in the foothills of the Himalayas, and in the Narmada Valley, among other places also. Now, if you can visit the library and refer to some books or search the internet, I am very sure you will be able to locate some other sites where these tools can be found across the world. Now, the next phase was the New Stone Age. In the beginning, human beings were mere hunters and food gatherers. It took them hundreds of thousands of years before they could become food producers. This was the beginning of the Neolithic Age. Human beings could now grow their own food, and they no longer depended on the uncertainty of hunting or searching and gathering more food. How do you think this happened? It is quite possible, like the discovery of fire, this could also have been an accident. Maybe some seeds fell on the ground and plants came out. These plants soon became a regular supply of food. They started sowing these seeds and harvesting them. Now, they had to look after the plants they had sown. This was because there was a gap of at least 6 months between sowing and harvesting the grains. This was the beginning of agriculture. It led to a settled life for humans. For now, they had a regular supply of abundant food. They also had a better chance of survival as they no longer had to go hunting for food. Agriculture brought many advantages and changes in the lives of the human beings. They built huts for themselves, which were probably protected by a wall. The fields lay outside the walls. Now they had a regular place to live, which soon took the form of a village. This village consisted of many families which provided protection to each other. Now, around the same time, the early humans realized that they could keep some animals with them. This was possible because of agriculture. Now, they kept grain for themselves, and the husk was kept for animals. They had learned to domesticate animals. Do you know that the dog was the first animal to be domesticated? Later, early humans started keeping goats, cattle, sheep for various purposes. They used wool and skin from animals for clothing, and they also used their meat and milk for themselves. This was the beginning of mixed farming. Agriculture provided plant food, while domesticated animals gave meat, milk, and also wool. The early humans had seen plants coming out of seeds and giving food like the mother who feeds and sustains the life of her children. They started worshipping earth as a symbol of mother. The Neolithic age human beings continue to remain in awe of the forces of nature like the Paleolithic age people. Gradually, as the knowledge of their environment increased, a desire for a comfortable life also developed. The early humans realized that it was important to have better tools and implements, so they made them sharper. The axe was used for cutting and felling trees. It was made of hard stone, chipped and ground to an edge, after which it was nailed to a wooden stick. Similarly, a sickle was used for harvesting the grain. These tools were also polished to make them last longer. Now, these polished tools helped them to clear the land for agriculture and for cutting and gathering crops. Do you know that such tools are used for gardening and farming by small farmers even today? Another very important discovery of this period was the wheel. Nobody could have believed the innumerable ways it could affect and change human life. Now, wheel was used for drawing water from the well in the form of a pulley, for spinning of thread, and making clothes in the form of spinning wheel, or the charkha, to make pottery in the form of the potter's wheel. The invention of the potter's wheel helped them to make cooked food. The pots were made with twig baskets which were plastered with clay. These pots were of different sizes and had beautiful patterns on the outside. The greatest use of the wheel was in the cart for transportation. This enabled human beings to carry themselves and their goods from one place to another. Even today, the wheel is used for many important activities. Now, let us look at another activity for you. As you discussed along, you must have realized how human beings progressed steadily from the Paleolithic to the Neolithic age. Now, compare the situation of the early humans of the past with your situation today. Use the given clues like fire, tools, agriculture, mixed farming, wheels, religion, harmony with nature. Now, I am going to ask you some very important questions to find out whether you have really understood. Answer them to yourself only. Why were the early humans called nomads? Write two differences between the tools of the old Stone Age and the new Stone Age. Mention two important discoveries of the Neolithic age. Describe three ways in which the discovery of wheel was significant for human civilization. Now, we talk about the use of metals. Chalcolithic age humans had come a long way from their food gathering and stone implement days, yet they were not satisfied. Soon they discovered a metal called copper. This period now came to be called the Chalcolithic age. In this age, people began to use copper for making implements. Do you remember that in order to make clay pottery, the early humans used fire? It is used even today in the form of furnaces. Copper was the first metal to be melted by heat in order to make implements. As the early humans started discovering new materials, they started experimenting with them. Copper was mixed with other metals like zinc, tin. As the early humans started discovering new materials, they started experimenting with them. Copper was mixed with other metals like zinc, tin and lead to produce bronze. The age in which people started using bronze came to be called the Bronze Age. The tools made of metal proved to be much more effective than the earlier stone implements. Metallic knives and axes were helpful in cutting down trees, and more land was cleared for agriculture. The period when humans used both metals and small pieces of stone is called the Chalcolithic age. Implements of this age have been found at Brahmagiri in Mysore, Nawab Tolli near the Narmada river, as well as in the Chota Nagpur plateau. If you happen to be anywhere near this area, try to see the excavated sites and make notes. Compare this information with any other sites which you might have seen or heard. Now, let us talk about the beginning of community life. Agriculture, mixed farming, development of tools and discovery of wheel all naturally led to beginning of a village life. By now, the groups of human beings that had settled together had become larger. Obviously, there was now security as well as safety. Now, this group needed law, order and some discipline. So, it was natural that they would choose one such person amongst themselves who could lead them. Now, various groups decided their own method of choosing a leader. The leader was more often the eldest person in the group, and sometimes it could be the strongest also. The leader looked after the law and order of the settlement. If a dispute arose between any two members of the group, the leader would act as the mediator. Gradually, these settlements became even larger. Do you know that the area around the rivers Saraswati and Indus were the places where the first Indian cities came up around 2500 BC? It was the Indus Valley civilization called the Indus-Saraswati civilization by some historians after the discovery of sites in Harappa. Now, what about the religion of these people? Human beings all over the world have fear of the unknown. Any event which was not understood by them was held in awe and soon became sacred. The same happened with the early human beings. The earth assumed the status of a mother figure, which provided food for all living beings, her children. The sun gave life and warmth. It was also reassuring after the dark night. It was the same for the moon, the stars, the rains, etc. Now, people started worshipping them. They started sacrificial rites and sang songs in praise of these natural objects. There were magic practitioners who claimed they could prevent people from coming to harm by them. Some individuals decided to perform sacrificial rites and pray for the community. Such persons came to be known as priests. People had realized that death was a journey from which people never return. So they began to follow the practice of making graves for burying their dead. They covered the graves with large stones called megaliths. Why did they cover them with large stones called megaliths? To prevent wild animals from digging them out and eating them. Sometimes articles of daily use were also placed, keeping in mind the requirement of the dead on their last journey. Don't we do the same today also? Does it strike you that the reverence for the departed souls persists even today? In fact, you will be surprised to see how many things we have in common with our ancestors. Then, after the Bronze Age came the Iron Age and, of course, beyond. As you have learned, human culture and civilization had undergone several phases of development. The earliest human beings started making tools with stone. Later, human beings discovered metals which proved to be more useful for making implements. Copper, bronze and iron were discovered in that very chronological order. The discovery of iron was a very important landmark in human civilization. It helped in making tools that were more lasting and durable. People learned to make alloys which are made up of two or more metals in fixed ratios. Brass is an example of an alloy. Then we learned how to make steel by adding carbon to iron, and much later material called plastic. Plastic is still used for making all kinds of tools and objects of everyday use. It has many advantages over other materials. However, lately it has been found to have a negative impact on our environment, and many governments are trying to ban it. Even in India, it is a banned plastic. Therefore, its use is being restricted. I am sure you have heard about the ban on plastic bags. The scientists are now trying to discover biodegradable plastic. So, you must realize that every age of human development presents its own set of challenges. These have to be addressed as humans evolve to the next stage. We shall study about the various stages of human development in another video. Thank you very much for listening.
पच्चीस साल का लंबा सफर और लाखों लोगों के चेहरों पर खिलती मुस्कान, गर्व और गरिमा से जीने की प्रेरणा देती मुस्कान, आत्मसम्मान और विश्वास से पैदा हुई मुस्कान। इन खिलते चेहरों पर ये मुस्कान आई है शिक्षा के जरिए। ये मुस्कान आई है नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ ओपन स्कूलिंग यानी NIOS के जरिए। नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ ओपन स्कूलिंग या राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालयी शिक्षा संस्थान, इस संस्थान का एक बड़ा उद्देश्य है आम आदमियों के जीवन को बेहतर बनाना। ऐसे लोग जिनके लिए शिक्षा एक दूर का सपना है, या वे बच्चे जो परिवार की रोजी रोटी कमाने के लिए बीच में ही स्कूल छोड़ने पर मजबूर हो जाते हैं। NIOS ऐसे बच्चों और बड़ों को दोबारा शिक्षा से जुड़ने का मौका मुहैया कराता है ताकि वे एक बेहतर जीवन जी सकें। 1989 में स्थापना के बाद NIOS ने देश के लाखों बच्चों और वयस्कों को बेहतर शिक्षा से जोड़ा है। इनमें हर उम्र, हर पृष्ठभूमि, हर जाति, हर मजहब और हर क्षेत्र के लड़के लड़कियां, महिलाएं और पुरुष शामिल हैं। बढ़ई से लेकर पायलट, डॉक्टर, इंजीनियर, बेकर और दर्जी तक NIOS कोशिश कर रहा है सबको शिक्षित और सशक्त बनाने की, चाहे वो असम के दूर दराज इलाके में रहने वाला हो या फिर मुंबई जैसे महानगर का। NIOS ने अपनी मौजूदगी हर जगह दर्ज कराई है। NIOS ने शिक्षा की परंपरागत सोच को ही बदल दिया है। वो पढ़िए जो हम पढ़ाते हैं की जगह NIOS की नई सोच है, हम वो पढ़ाते हैं जो आप पढ़ना चाहते हैं। इस नई सोच ने लोगों को आगे बढ़ने और NIOS के साथ जुड़ने के लिए प्रोत्साहित किया है। शिक्षा उपलब्ध कराने के मामले में NIOS किसी सीमा को नहीं मानता, उम्र की सीमा को भी नहीं। चंडीगढ़ के गणेश के लिए भी NIOS एक वरदान साबित हुआ। NIOS शारीरिक रूप से अक्षम बच्चों को भी बेहतर शिक्षा मुहैया कराने के लिए पूरी तरह प्रतिबद्ध है। ऐसे बच्चों के लिए शिक्षा न केवल रोजगार के द्वार खोलती है, बल्कि उन्हें आत्मविश्वास और गर्व के साथ जीना भी सिखाती है। NIOS खेल के इन सितारों को उनकी सुविधा और समय के अनुसार बेहतर शिक्षा उपलब्ध कराता है। मेरी कॉम, सोमदेव देववर्मन, देविका रेबेका पल्लिकल, अरमान इब्राहिम, प्रद्युमन प्रकाश और अमय जोत सिंह। NIOS सीमा पर खड़े उन प्रहरियों को भी शिक्षा से लाभान्वित करता है जो देश की सुरक्षा के लिए अपनी जान की बाजी लगाने से भी नहीं चूकते। सच तो ये है कि NIOS की पहुंच हर ओर रहती है, चाहे वो दूर दराज के आदिवासी हो या जेल की कोठरी में बंद कैदी या फिर ग्रामीण और शहरी क्षेत्रों के गरीब निवासी। देश में कहीं भी कोई भी व्यक्ति, स्त्री, पुरुष, लड़का, लड़की, अमीर, गरीब शिक्षा से वंचित न रहे। राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालयी शिक्षा संस्थान का यही मिशन है।
राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालयी शिक्षा संस्थान पूरे देश में शिक्षा के साथ साथ कौशल विकास के क्षेत्र में बहुत सारे कोर्सेज दे रहा है। लगभग 100 से ज़्यादा कोर्सेज हैं। हम दूर दराज के गांव में अपने संस्थान बनाते हैं और वहाँ के बच्चों को, वहाँ के बच्चियों को, वहाँ के वयस्कों को हुनर के क्षेत्र में शिक्षा पहुँचाते हैं। आपको जानकर खुशी होगी कि अब हम आर्ट, साइंस, कॉमर्स जिन क्षेत्रों में 12वीं का सर्टिफिकेट दिया जाता रहा है, अब हम हुनर के क्षेत्र में, वोकेशनल एरिया में भी 10वीं और 12वीं का सर्टिफिकेशन करेंगे। तो वो बच्चे जो कृषि से जुड़े हुए हैं, कारपेंट्री से जुड़े हुए हैं या दूसरे क्षेत्रों से जुड़े हुए हैं, वो अपने ही क्षेत्र में काम करेंगे, सीखेंगे, हुनर पैदा करेंगे अपने में और सर्टिफाइड भी होंगे कि वो सर्टिफाइड कृषक हैं, खेतिहर हैं। तो आज तक जो हमारे देश में ये सोच रही है कि आप 12वीं पास तभी कहे जाएंगे जब भूगोल, अर्थशास्त्र, भौतिकी ये पढ़ेंगे, अब ये समय बदल गया है। ITI में जितने बच्चे पढ़ते हैं, लगभग 18 लाख बच्चे हर साल दाखिला लेते हैं। अब हम उनको सर्टिफिकेशन करेंगे।
NIOS अपने छात्रों को माध्यमिक स्तर पर 26 और उच्च माध्यमिक स्तर पर 19 विषयों का विकल्प देता है। पढ़ाई किस माध्यम से करनी है, इसमें भी आपको लचीलापन मिलेगा। माध्यमिक स्तर पर ही 7 भाषाओं के अलग अलग माध्यमों का विकल्प मौजूद है।